Okay, I'm back working on my 2013 Hyundai Sonata here. We're going to be replacing the entire exhaust on here with the exception of the primary cat, which is the exhaust manifold itself. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all the pieces I got here that I've scrounged up over the last 2 weeks, and I'll leave links to everything I can, and in case you need to replace any of these items. Okay, so first off, this is all that I was left with right here. This piece of flex pipe. They left me with one little rubber hanger, and that was it. So takes 5 altogether, and these are just aftermarkets, and you can see that they're pretty close. So that's what we're going to be using. You're going to definitely need some white lithium. It is your best friend when sliding these on. I just dug through a bucket of bolts. I've got a 5-gallon bucket, and I've got this here that I've dug a bunch of bolts out of to come up with the ones I needed. I did not have to buy any. I'm going to tell you that these are an M12. I think it's an M12 1.25. I don't know 100% on that, so don't quote me, but I did scrounge these up. But this is your first piece of flex pipe here. You have a gasket up here. It's already on the manifold under the car. This is the gasket. It's a kind of a special gasket that fits onto this because this is wider than the other pieces. But this came with this second catalyst intermediate that I ordered. So it came with 2 gaskets. It come with this one and this one. So had that taken care of. So all I had to do was get a couple of nuts for these here. So moving on down, so we got this piece. This is the resonator, and this is an OEM. I tried to get, you can't buy the cats, but I tried to get everything OEM. It's going to bolt up, and it's going to sound, like the original. But I got this. This is in excellent shape, almost like new. Said this is the resonator, and these I could not. I was having trouble even finding these new, and so I got this piece used, and I got the flex pipe up there. Got it used, so I saved, about probably half the cost, or half the cost of a new one. But I couldn't even find this one new. But I knew that flex pipe up there was over $130. So moving on back, we just got, this is a Walker exhaust. I really like these because it has a really good barbed hangers, I guess you could call them, and it said this, I believe, is what was originally, but I think they do have another one. It's just a long pipe, and it goes into like a black crinkly looking muffler, but I didn't want that. I wanted to go this route. I figured this would hook up a little bit better. But anyways, we got this piece of pipe that just runs back here, and then this is going to fit in here, and I've got a mark to show you that it's going to go in about that far. And we've got just a 2-inch clamp that's going to go on here, and that's going to take care of that. And so we got 5 hangers all together, and this is just the muffler back here. It was set up. This is Walker, and these look like they were made really good, so I went with these. Now if you go look at the compatibility, it's going to tell you it won't fit, but it will fit. So we've got the only other thing I said, I had to scrounge up some bolts. I had to get a gasket for this because my catalyst up there only came with 2, and it's just a 2-inch gasket. And so that's everything. We've got our hangers, got all of our pieces together, so we're just going to go ahead and get on the car. And you'll notice that I've got it on ramps front and back. However, it's still, these cars are pretty low. I went ahead and raised it up with my jacks a little more, put some jack stands for safety, and we got us a little cardboard under. So we're going to go in here and get started with the flex pipe here first. The nuts for it right here, and so we're going to go ahead and start with this one here first. Okay, and you got to have some anti-seize. This stuff's really messy, but we've got to have that. I put it on to these when I put the old piece back on just to test the car out, and that stuff already burned off, but at least you can get these back off again if you use this stuff usually. Alright, so we're just getting the anti-seize on here. Okay, you can see we already got our gasket in place. We're going to reuse that. Okay, now this is just going to go up on here. Okay, so we got it slipped on there. We're going to go ahead and work on getting these in place. I'm just going to reach up over this. Okay, and these are pretty easy to run down by hand. And we're going to torque these all down to about 35 foot-pounds. And if you don't have a torque wrench, just get them nice and snug. Okay, so I'm using a 19mm in this case on these. Okay, now this one up here, I'm just tightening with my slim ratchet because it's too difficult to get my torque wrench up in there, but I've just got those nice and tight. And that's one thing, is they won't move once they're tight. Okay, so we're just going to be slipping these on as we go here, and if you put that white lithium, you won't have any trouble. But they're more difficult to remove than anything, so that's where you really need the white lithium. Don't be afraid to use this stuff. The excess will burn off. And we got to get our new gasket. So this came with the catalyst, but in case you need that part number, there it is. The other ones are just basic 2-inch exhaust gaskets. Okay, the angle, this is going to go like this. Now, there's no way to flip this thing around the wrong way because this end, this bolt hole is different. It will not be wide enough to fit. And something I was going to mention earlier, another reason that I like the OEM, I have bought, now you'll go to Google and you'll see like a piece that will have this cat and the resonator together. It's like a one piece. I do not recommend those. There are some good ones, I'm sure, but unless you get a really good one, a lot of times what happens is you have trouble getting it to bolt up, or there being some issue. And I know a lot of people, I've had trouble in the past where I've had to take it to a muffler shop and have it welded because it wouldn't match up. And you know, it kind of defeats the whole purpose, because if I put this all back OEM, if I have any trouble with the catalyst or the resonator, well, I can take it out and I can simply replace that piece. If it's welded, then I'm not going to be able to do much of anything with it, and I'm kind of at the mercy of the shop to weld it. So, you know, that's kind of the whole point in doing it this way, so I'm able to go back in and replace these like OEM later. So anyways, I'm going to tighten that up in a minute. I think those are 17s there that I found. But yeah, well, wait a minute, maybe an 18. Okay, before I proceed on to the resonator, I'm going to see if I can get these here. I'm going to get this hanger in place, and it's going on there no problem. Okay, so for this piece, we're going to have to get our bolts and get our gasket on here. So we got this hanger on this side, just slipped it in. We're just going to push this up here into place, get a bolt started. Okay, so we'll go ahead and snug these up, make sure our gasket's nice and straight. Okay, now we're getting one on the back side here, and we'll go ahead and torque these once we get them snugged down. All right, we've got our torque wrench. We'll go ahead and torque this section right here first. Okay, so we got this section right here taken care of, and see that aftermarket cat is fitting nicely. Okay, so getting ready to install this long pipe here. Now I do have a correction on this. The one that I had to swap out, the walker. It looked exactly the same, but it did not work. And this is the AP exhaust. That's the number that you need to focus on, that number right there. Now this is the Walker muffler, and the best I can tell, it's going to work just fine. There is the part number on that. Now, they do have an AP muffler, but I didn't want to exchange this one out because I think this is going to work just fine. The only difference might be in this hanger right here, but it looks like it's going to fit just fine. So we're going to go ahead and get this long piece here installed next. All right, so we're just up here going to just go ahead and slip our gasket on, and it should fit fairly well. Just got to get it adjusted here. Okay, so the bolt holes were a little bit smaller. All I did was cut a notch with the cutters, just like that one side was slotted, and you can see that slipped on there, and it's centered up just fine. So we'll go ahead and proceed to slip the pipe on here. Okay, now we're just going to slip this in on here, and while we're doing this, we're going to have to get our hanger on the other end so we're not just dangling. Alright, let's see if we can work these on here. I'm just kind of supporting it with my other hand here a little bit. I'm not going to tighten them up. I'm just going to get these started so it's not falling off when I get my hanger on. Alright. Okay, like I said, you know, definitely white lithium on these. You will never get them on otherwise, and you for sure will never get them back off without it. So we're going to slip. Now this one doesn't have the bar, but it's kind of hooked, so it's pretty well impossible for it to ever come out of there the way that it sits. So I prefer the ones with the barbs, but those work just fine. So we got this set in place. I think we're going to go ahead and go down and we'll torque up our bolts down there now. All right, so we're just going to snug these up. I got wound up with two different size nuts, 17 on one side and 18 on the other. Right, we'll go ahead and get the torque wrench over here now. Okay, so we're going to try to go 35 on these. Sometimes I don't like to get too wild with it. You never know if you're going to overdo some of these little bolts. May back it off to 30. I'm not really liking the feel of this. Okay, so I backed it off to 30 there. I think that's going to be good. So this is the reason that I like the Walker exhaust. I mean, these, it's fine, but I'd rather it have the barb there so it simply cannot move that much. But every one of the other pieces has the barbs on them, so I'm pretty happy. Now I will say that those are a whole lot easier to remove, but one of the problems is that these hangers are 12 millimeter, or you know, a little under ½ inch, and they fit the other ones fine, whereas that one's a little bit smaller. It's more like a 3/8 or something. So, but anyways, it's going to work. All right, so we're going to go ahead and work on slipping this one on, this piece first. And I just kind of fill these little things up with this white silicone. And even though it's a tight fit, it sure makes it go in there a lot easier. Now this is looking awful close to my evaporator canister there. I don't really know if that's going to be an issue. I may wind up putting me a heat shield through these bolts that are already on here and wrap it around. That just makes me a little bit nervous with it being that close. But you see that line we got on there, we're just gonna slip that to where we need it, and then we will slip our other end on here. Let me get you over here. Alright, so let's see how this is going to work here. Okay, so there's where we ended up at. Okay, now this tried to slip out, but because I got this mark, I could see. So we got our 2-inch clamp, and we're just going to get it on here. And this is a nice snug fit. It's really odd because I measure this and it's 2 1/8. So at first I thought, okay, I'll get a 2 1/8 clamp. Well, apparently that was too big. But even though it's a 2 1/8, it fits a 2-inch. So I'm just going to put it right here. I probably need to get some anti-seize on these too. But we're just going to get it on. I think I usually like to, so right here is as far as it goes. I usually like to back it up a little bit from the edge there. Do like a 1/2 to 3/4. Just kind of get it in the middle. I don't know if there's any certain but somewhere about there, I think. And then I'm just going to figure out what size this is, and we'll tighten this up. And these really seal good, because I mean, this is pulling, this is tight, and it just really crimps this thing. Now when you have to remove one of these, you know, forget about it. You pretty much have to cut this pipe with a Dremel to get it off of there. It's not coming apart. Right, so I really don't torque these. I just snug it up a little bit. You know, you can go to bending things. Don't have to be crazy tight. You just want it to be halfway tightened on there evenly, as it really seals off good. course, we'll check things out after we get it together. This is pretty snug. Okay, so the exhaust feels really nice. It's all fastened down. I'm wondering if right here they do have different size hangers. I may hang that down just another notch lower, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. There's heat shields everywhere except under that evaporative canister. I don't know how close the OEM hangs to it, but I don't think it's going to be an issue anyway. But yeah, we got it all together here. We're going to go ahead and we'll get it down, or go ahead and crank it up and see how it sounds anyway. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and crank it up here and kind of check it out. Sounds pretty quiet. Or let's go back here and look at it. And of course, there'll be some burn off to this new piping. Gets completely, hot and burns a lot of the newness and stuff off, and the anti-seize and everything. But just checking, don't see any leakage. Checking all of your different connections and gaskets. Everything's looking good. And you see, like right here, this is the only place that I'd kind of like it to drop down a little bit lower here maybe, but it may not be an issue. But I could either put a heat shield on it, or I could get another hanger that will drop it down like another 1/2 of an inch or so and kind of get it down maybe, or drop it down up here and back here. They got different hangers with different size or different hole spacing. Now this is the first time for me hearing this car with without the exhaust being wide open, because it hasn't had any exhaust on it since I got it running. Okay, so I just took it down the road and tested it out, and the exhaust is sounding good. Definitely a lot better than it was. I think I was like right at about $500 or a little under on replacing all this exhaust, the catalyst and everything, and all the pieces. Some of them I got used. I'm going to try to leave links to everything, in case you're needing to replace some of this stuff. Now, I want to point out that the long pipe, I got the wrong one at first, and I had to, swap it out. It's the only issue I run into, but this was very easy. I mean, you could do this within probably 30 minutes or an hour, the whole thing. But that was the only issue I had, and you don't even have to do like the long pipe and the muffler separate. You don't have to do it separate. They sell one that's all one piece if you want to do that. It was just a little bit more. It's like $200 or so for that. Whereas, for these, I think, let's see, with the muffler, I was probably around 150. I was trying to keep the cost down. So it wasn't a big savings, but if you want to do the all one piece, probably be even easier to go that route. But anyways, very happy with it. Went real smooth. But that's going to conclude the video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.